More than one of the aesthetics I'm into feature gathering. You know, where there's more fabric in an area than is needed, so it's pulled together or gathered to create this look. There are a few different methods to accomplishing this look, and I thought I would share with you the ones I have learned so far. Okay, so the first gathering method, and probably the most common, uses thread. You can do it on your machine, but I usually do it by hand, and you just sew a really long basting stitch. And I tend to make it pretty big, ouch, and poke myself. With your thread, you don't want to tie it at the end. And then when you have a significant area with your basting stitch, you just pull it. And it gathers it up, like a little ruffle. That's the one I used for my niece's dress. And usually you'll see people do 2 basting stitches and pull on just one to give it a little bit more strength, especially if you have a skirt that's really big and heavy. That is the first one. The next one I'm going to tell you about I haven't actually tried. I just know that it's an option, and I'm not going to even show you because I'm terrified. What it is you adjust your tension on your sewing machine. And I have never had problems with my tension so far, and I'm not going to start now, but you would adjust this. You can see, like, this makes it tighter, this makes it looser. So if you make it tighter and then you just sew it, then it will gather up your fabric by default. But like I said, we're not going to do that. I don't want to mess anything up. This is perfect. We're just going to leave it the way it is. I just wanted to tell you that that was a thing. Next one is not gathers so much as it is folds, and that's just pleating. That's one type of pleat. There's a bunch of different kinds. You'll see box pleats, and you can alternate these or make them further apart, like that, and then you would just sew across the top. Stick it under our sewing machine. That is the general idea of a pleat. Next we come to my favorite type of gathering, using elastic. This is the first way you can gather using elastic. You sew a channel. You cut a piece of elastic to the size that you want for whatever it is you're making, and then you thread it through. There's a few different ways you can thread it through. You can use a loop turner. Sometimes I've used an embroidery needle. The most common way is to stick it on a safety pin and push it through that way. And you just want to make sure you don't lose the end of it. Have it all the way through. When you let it contract, it looks like that. This one's really easy, and it's one that I use quite a bit. The next one's really easy, and I probably use it the most out of any gathering method I use. This is my favorite way to gather fabric, and something I use probably too much. Pin it to the end. Change your machine to a zigzag stitch. So what you want to do is you want to stretch the elastic as you're sewing. Okay, and you sew right across the elastic. And the reason you use a zigzag stitch is because if you use a straight stitch, it'll break when the elastic tries to flex. But if you use a zigzag, it gives it some give. So there's your nice little gather. I think this looks the nicest, it looks the evenest, and it's a lot of fun to do, honestly. And then you have elastic, so that, I mean, if you gain some weight, then you just lose your gathers. Right? And the last method I learned, I actually haven't tried, but I want to. So we're going to try that right now, live, for the first time. And it's Shuring. And I love this top, but the real motivation behind wearing it is because it is shirred. This is Shuring. What Shuring is you replace your bobbin thread with elastic thread. This isn't ideal. I think I had it for something else, but we're going to use it because this is a test, and I'm not going to buy something just to test it out. What you have to do is hand wind it, and there's some different things I've read. Some people say don't stretch it at all. Some people say stretch it a little bit. We're not going to stretch it at all, and we're going to see how that fares for us. That's probably enough for this test. So we have that. So one of the tips I saw when shuring is to draw your lines so that you know what to follow, because it's going to gather as you go. Because this is just like a test piece and I don't care what it looks like, we're just going to use pencil and we'll just measure it out with these zipper instructions. Okay, so I've marked out some lines on my fabric, on my unironed muslin scrap fabric. And then I think you just sew a straight stitch going down the line, and we'll see. I don't have a very long tail for this elastic, so we'll see if it works. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so I messed up. I didn't tack it down because I didn't want to waste any elastic. And the elastic just pulled right through. So not only did we not waste any elastic, we didn't use any either. Okay, take two. That's why it's important to practice, kids. Much better. Much better. Okay. This one looks like it's going to be a bit tougher because the fabric's all gathered, so I gotta stretch it out just to do the next line. And now it makes sense why they say to do all your lines first, because I would not be able to do a straight line if I hadn't done that first. So while I was doing that, I heard something snap. And it suddenly got very easy to stretch the fabric, and that's because my elastic on the line before didn't hold. But you get the idea. This is shuring. I think that because my elastic isn't for this, it's craft elastic, I think it's more for beading. So it isn't the best for the job, and I'm trying to be really frugal with it. Because I know this isn't anything I'm going to wear or anything. But that is the general idea, is you would do that all the way down, spaced apart. These are spaced kind of far apart. If you look at my shirt, they're much closer. They are the 1 centimeter apart. Well, I made these 1 inch apart. So I guess that's the difference there between the standard and metric systems. You know, my shirt and this piece of crap scrap. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. Thank you for sticking around and watching me learn and maybe learning something yourself. I intend to use these techniques and more, and probably shuring things correctly in the future. Who knows? You will know if you subscribe, stick around, and watch this channel. I have much more aesthetic sewing content for you in the future, and I hope to see you there. Until next time.